Good evening. Welcome to the Holyoke Commission on Disability. It is unbelievably September 25, 2025, and I am calling to order our meeting. I'd like to start with an oral roll call, please. So starting with B for Betty.
Present.
Jess.
Present.
Sarah. Sarah, we know you were just
present.
here. Oh, thanks. Leanna,
I'm here.
good to see you. And Marlene.
Present.
Good. And Kelly Curran, our
Present.
ADA officer. All right. So, we don't have any public visitors tonight, so we're going to go forward. So I'm asking for a motion to accept the minutes from our August 28th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. So everybody good with minutes then?
Then you have to do
anybody.
a roll call vote.
I'm sorry. Yeah, let's do the roll call vote then. So, and I guess I do like to ask, nobody off the top has anything to add or change? Nope. All right, so can I have a motion for a roll call vote, please?
So moved.
All right, again, we'll start with Betty.
Approved.
Jess.
Approved.
Sarah.
Approved.
Leanna.
Approved.
And Marlene.
All right. Good.
And I agree as well. Okay, old business. So tonight I really want to start, actually I had a discussion on clarification and delegation of roles and tasks, which I want to do, but I'd kind of like to go up first down to update on the COD budget funds for fiscal year July 2025 to June of 2026, and also include in that clarification of open meeting law, so that when we go forth in anything we do, but definitely the discussion on our budget, that we do make sure that we are following all Massachusetts laws, and definitely that on open meeting law. So we had a concern from one of our members, Betty Larrabee, on terms of whether we were meeting in our so-called subcommittee or task force for the budget within the bounds of that. And so I have spoken with two gentlemen at the Massachusetts Office of Disability, as well as Kathy Digman in our city solicitor's office. And we all did a lot of digging, Kelly as well, because some of it didn't seem so clear, or it can be complex. So I finally, after literally 2 to 3 weeks of this, going in, and I should say when I started working with this group, my understanding was that to meet that quorum, everybody had to be voting members. And it's not real clear when it was first stated to me in terms of definition from what open meeting law is. So I'm going to read you directly from the exchange that I had with Kathy. Most of it down, we narrowed things down in terms of my confusion, And then after I tell you this, then I would really be glad to hear everybody else, the other membership on them. So basically what it comes down to in terms of definition is that hold on, I'm trying to make sure I'm on the right page too. So in order to determine the quorum and for a simple majority, first of all, the members all have to be voting members. And of those voting members, it is half plus one. So my concern was, I know in some of the other commissions that the city officer doesn't usually vote and isn't counted in that. And that was part of my confusion. And so that was clarified, that our ADA city employee officer is not a voting member. Which is kind of a good thing too, because when you also think of another part that I had a question on, by the way, was conflict of interest. When you have any city employee, I want to make sure that our ADA officer is protected in her position so that she can speak freely in a way that is advisory to us, but not be a conflict and cause the city problems as well. And so that's clarifying to know that she's a non-voting member. So again, half of 6 is 3, plus 1 is 4 to establish a quorum. And again, that does not count Kelly. So there was no time in our meetings that we had 4 people or a quorum.
Lynn, is that a message from Attorney Dignan that you received, or just a verbal conversation?
That's it. That's exact. In fact, I'll read you what she says.
No, is it a verbal conversation or a written report that she sent you?
I did say written, and I did say email. We did have we had phone conversation.
Get a copy of that email so I understand that Kelly is not a voting member?
Yes, I'd be glad to send that on.
Thank you.
So I think we're pretty clear on that, but I do want to state it's always good to have questions, because in the process I found even some of the lawyers weren't all too sure and had to do a little digging, as well as other people who have been on commissions even in our city for longer than I have. And there can be differences because we have the state law, but the state law for it also says that in this case that can also defer to what is in our own bylaws now, guidelines. Which, by the way, I want to make sure that's one document before I forget. Betty had gone over, if you remember, a number of meetings ago and submitted to us the operating guidelines updated. And I have them, and I'm just double checking too. We've been trying to keep kind of a foundation of important papers, links, resources. And Kelly, do we have that in there? Do you know? In the drive? Yeah. Seems like that would be a good thing to have in there too. So,
Lynn?
Yes.
Lynn, can I interrupt real quick?
I'm sorry? Yes, Sarah?
I just have a quick question. What was Kathy's name again?
Kathy Digman.
D-I-G-M-A-N?
D-E-G-N-A-N.
Excuse me, thank you, Kelly.
D-I-E-G-N?
Nope. D-E-G-N-A-N. Degnan.
And, okay, and she's from the city attorney's office?
Yep, the city
Yes.
solicitor. She's an assistant
Solicitor.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep. Sarah, is this a little better? Was I too close to the microphone? Can you understand me okay?
Oh, I can understand you. It's just going fast. So I just
Yep.
want to make sure I got that right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Doesn't appear so. Okay, so I'd actually like to, while we're in there, because a question also about my integrity, frankly, in terms of being a group. I normally don't do this, and I don't like tit for tat. And Betty, I appreciate and respect your knowledge, but that was also very incorrect. And I want to clarify it because I am a team player. I am a good leader that way. And in terms of the budget, even to assuage my own memory and knowledge, that subject of what this committee did through the budget was shared on the agenda every single time since, I believe, January, and definitely since February. Not only that, but on March 27th, which I knew I remembered pretty well because it's my oldest son's birthday, we did vote as a full committee on the different itemization categories after discussing them at length. And Betty, you were there at that meeting. So,
Lynn, I'm missing your issue here. What is the point of this conversation?
because I want to make sure that I'm an effective chair when I'm here. And so if there is a statement to the full group about my integrity in terms of not being someone that includes all that, I have to clarify it, clean that slate. And that's all. That's all I want to say. So anybody have anything on that? Actually, I would ask, is anybody here feel that they have not been informed by our subcommittee task force on budget enough on any of this? Because I certainly would want to know that.
I do have a question or two on that issue while we're talking about it.
Sure.
I know that the commission voted on those 4 priorities, but the budget only has 2 line items. How were the 4 priorities separated into the 2 line items?
They just basically divided them and categorized the first 2, and then I think, Kelly, the second 2, is that correct, you know?
I'm going to open it up because I honestly don't remember off the top of my head, but I think the objective of what we were going to purchase fell under 2 different categories, and that's why they put them in those. But let me open it up because I don't want to misspeak.
That'd be great. And it's a fair question. So, and in the discussion of that too, we were trying all those items, and the philosophy behind it, of course, was aligned with the state guidelines as well.
I think while I'm looking, we can talk about something else.
Okay. Unfortunately, my next question that comes to hand, Kelly, was going to be for you, that we also make sure that we put that list of items that has been sent out to the whole commission. Also make sure that maybe is in there too when you get a chance would be great. Betty, did you say more than one question while she's looking that up?
Well, it depends on what answer she gives me.
Okay.
I'm hoping it's an inclusive answer so I don't have to ask more questions.
I'm trying to be quick. Sorry.
It's all right.
This is Sarah. Can I ask, when the budget, the 4 priorities were put into 2 line items, who are we talking about that put them into line items?
That would be in the mayor's office then.
The mayor's office, okay.
Yeah,
I
we
see.
don't have any, the commission would not have any control of that. So, while I hate nobody works well under pressure, but if you don't mind, I think we'll go on and
on, yes.
continue
Move
on the
on.
budget. Okay. So, also, excuse me, I've really been losing my voice for a while.
I got it.
Thank you.
I got it right in time.
Okay.
I brought mints. Everyone
Okay.
is having
Switching back to Kelly.
So, professional services is 14,000, and then the supplies and equipment is 22,000. And so the buckets were, so those are the two buckets, right? That I think it was maybe the auditor's office that recommended that, or was it the council? I don't recall, but because professional services could be used for several different things, and supplies and equipment can too. That's why
Makes sense.
they put them in those two. Does that answer your question, Betty? Or did
No,
you want
I'm trying to figure out where those 4 priorities that we identified fit into these lines.
Okay.
You know, the education, the Zoom things, where do they fit into the topics in the mayor's budget?
Can I?
Go ahead. Marlene has an answer.
So it would seem to me that within those 4 items, those elements of those items that might include professional services, someone helping with the survey or doing translation would be in that professional services category, where Zoom and other things would be a supply side. So it would really be within those 4 categories. Stuff would either be service related or
Supplies.
something physical that's a purchase. So that would be how it would be. In my mind, that would be the easy way to do that,
It seems to
and the most simple way to do that.
Okay, so something like working with the senior center on a van or transportation would be equipment?
If and if
Yeah.
it's like, for instance, if the city decides to partner with the transit, if the senior center decides to partner with the transit authority and they get that van, our funds would be either to support the operating side of it,
Contributed.
service side of it, contributing in that way, or if it's on the supply side, it would be a capital kind of thing. So again, it would be what the actual thing is that we're looking to cover.
Okay, so our 4 priorities really were not specifically in a line item, they're case by case on what we're doing.
Now, in that, no, but in the discussion, yes. In fact, I got specific questions about that, and they got that sheet of the 4 categories we had.
And I think we talked about all of those. We did talk about all those categories.
Yeah, I can remember some of the comments Councillor Jordan made, for instance, on the education part.
I did find the document that I was looking for because I was having brain fog for a minute. But yeah, we have the COD needs to serve Holyoke residents who are disabled. So that those buckets, right? Accessible transportation, 12,000. Aid to student, yes, who in accessible city buildings, grounds.
So they all are specifically in there as well.
Yeah. So the thought was that they do fit under services or equipment and supplies.
Does that
Thank you,
feel
Kelly.
better
I'm
or
gonna-
clear?
And I'll share this document out with everyone too. put it in the drive.
I have a question.
Yes.
Does the city typically have like a list out or document available which outlines what allowable expenses are and what not allowed expenses are, just in terms of what we're permitted to use, what fits under certain categories? I have a strong background in budgeting, just from the several last jobs that I've had, including the one that I hold now.
Yep.
And typically what there is there's a guidance or document that lives and it's distributed to those who function with the budget, and it lists out allowable expenses versus expenses that are not permissible under that guidance. So I was just wondering if that's something that's available, or if we're expected to go back to the city council or auditor or whomever in order to seek approval for whatever it is that we might be discussing at any given time. I'm just wondering, mainly because I feel as though if we had access to any such document that listed out what's permissible and what isn't, it would speed things along for all of us and make things much simpler. And I'm just wondering if that's something that's available to us.
So we don't, but there are laws that municipalities have to follow under what we could and cannot purchase or services
Right.
we could procure. So if there was a question, we would go to the chief procurement officer and ask them.
Okay.
And if it was, our budget is so tiny that we're not probably going to go over 10,000 or 25, which,
No.
the different thresholds where you have to procure differently. So I
Right.
think that won't be an issue, but we generally follow the laws and get guidance from the procurement department.
Right.
But there's
Yeah, that's the only
there's no
reason I was
document I'm aware of that
That's a-
shows. Yeah.
Right. I was just wondering only because the laws certainly exist, and I'm familiar with a fair bit of it. And obviously it varies from state to municipality. It's just not everybody is going to be familiar with what those guidelines are going to be. And that's just kind of why I was wondering whether or not that would be something that we could at least access and review, just so that we were aware
Yeah.
for our own knowledge.
And this is Lynn. I'm in agreement. Well, we know the state does, for instance, because that's exactly what we've done a lot of research on and a lot of why to make sure we hit on those sorts of things as well. But yeah, so you would think the city would. So if they did have that document, it would be just kind of a helpful. It just, even in a small budget, I guess, to me, I agree that it's just, and this is a new budget for this commission. So it does feel like that would be a nice document to have, to know in advance as well. And all I can say to you in terms of what we devised, there was nothing. That's why we went and met with that office and the mayor was to determine, what those guidelines would be. But, maybe we can still ask someone there, or even Mayor Josh, if there is any document like that. I would also add that I know Betty had brought it up, and I had already seen at our last meeting, having watched a city council meeting, that there has been some movement to address a lot of these sorts of budget things. And one of them that they voted on, it's not a complete done deal yet, but I'm going to be talking to my ward counselor and others about what they see. Well, whereas you heard Kelly talk about, really with a small budget, you don't usually go, to incremental things as low as $1,000, under $1,000, and they're talking in that particular request before the council now for as low as 200. And I got to tell you, that's a recipe for just complete disaster in government, because to go down that low for every single thing, city council will never have an agenda that ends by 10 o'clock. And there's a reason for that. But I do believe that there's a happy balance in there. There should be accountability as well. So, anybody else? Not hearing anybody on that? Okay. So back, while we're in terms of budget, so we have been, there are two things that particularly I'd like to get to. So I would remind everybody, first of all, that this fiscal budget has been accepted by our mayor and our city council, first of all, and went through the process. And the next thing is to remind you, if you don't already know, and as I learned, this is not a revolving account. So that means the funds must be used in the way they were designated, and they will have to be used by the end of this fiscal year. And so that is also why we did a lot of research and talking to MOD and the state about doing the 22G funds account, because that one would be more flexible, because it would be a revolving account. And that's, to many of us, an advantage, because first of all, you can have changing mayors and changing attitudes, changing city council members, etc. And city council can always kind of, chime in. They have that power to do that too, if they see something that they think is not correct. And we will still have to have a treasurer and reporting and accounting in either the fiscal year account we already have, or if we choose to go forward again with the 22G. The nice thing to know is things can change. Need can change even within a year, either more need or less need. And with everything we are hearing nationally about the very sorts of categories like education, like anything to do with healthcare, like quality of life for seniors, all the sort of categories, that's also why they were chosen, are already in doubt, and likely that may continue. So again, you may flex. You can go or shift a bit somewhat, so that if there's an issue like that, then you can do that. The other thing is the process for going through the 22G funds account is a complex process, but even this was for the fiscal year. And so I think it's more efficient if you do it right the first time. It's why I don't mind myself questions, is that do it right the first time, then hopefully it will go smoother the next time. But not having to go through all that we have spent time on, because I can tell you that Marlene and myself and Jessica have really committed a tremendous amount of time on this, especially for volunteers. And I just can't even, that's all my life has been. And the irony being, it's not really helping my health or disability, as my doctors keep reminding me. And that is true of the other members as well. So if we can avoid that, it's also cost effective and efficient not to spend undue time with the city council that also has lots of things to deal with. So I still think it's an advantage to apply for the 22G, but I'll get to that in a minute, but I just wanted to say that in terms of how we even look at this account, to remember this money has to be gone at the end of that fiscal year. So we need to time how we do all these categories, right? And we have been trying to work on that.
That was actually one other question that I had, just because, again, I have a strong background with this. And one of the things that typically happens is if we don't spend what we're given, we are given less the next time. So I guess my next question is, how likely are we to spend down what our allocation is before the end of this fiscal year? And do we follow the federal fiscal year, or do we follow?
So we'll be till June of 26 for this.
Okay, so we do not follow the federal fiscal year. Okay.
And can I just say it's nice to have you back, Leanna?
Yeah, sure.
I like the good practical knowledge too. It helps. And again, you know, it is a big undertaking. So going back to that, I'm thinking, and Jess and Marlene, we've been thinking too about the timing. And Betty's question was good about the Zoom. You know, should we vote on this? And that, after talking to the lawyer, says, well, it isn't a massive budget. We do only meet once a month, but we can possibly meet sooner or something to get enough of a quorum if we suddenly have to do the expenditure quicker. That was my biggest concern. But I think it's good to go ahead and from now on, what I'd like to do is vote on the Zoom tonight. We know we're starting the process anyway, and it has been discussed and, oh, by the way, voted on and approved back in March. So, but like all things, and I want to let first Kelly also tell you a little bit about how that's going to be billed, the way you were explaining to me for the Zoom, why we're going to be in a full account with others.
So everyone has like individuals now, and they use their own credit card to secure it and then get reimbursed by the city. And the schools actually have a contract with Zoom where the city departments don't. So we're trying to get a city account. We'll each have our own individual accounts, but we won't be having to use personal credit cards to secure that. So the treasurer and I are meeting with the Zoom representative Monday. I think the procurement officer is joining us. And so hopefully next month we'll have a Zoom account. But that's why it's taking a little bit longer.
Kelly, how much is this account?
Good question. I'm going to tell you right now. I think it was like $1,200 or like $30 a month. Hold on one second. I'm going to pull it up. Do you hear that noise?
And while it's a city account, it'll be independent of other entities within the city, right?
Correct.
And the only reason I ask that is because if somebody books an appointment on Zoom at the same time and we're sharing an account, we now can't have a meeting at that same time. So it's just wanted to make sure we would be independent.
It'll be independent. That's
Okay,
why.
great.
That's why Jeffrey couldn't share the councils with us.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good question again. And again, I can't emphasize to you all enough, and I think you all know this. Most of us who have worked with Zoom find it much easier to work with. And the other aspect of it is most of the other commissions are on some city account, and the advantage is if you have to go, they only, for free, for instance, Zoom will only give you 45 minutes, 40 minutes, something like that. You can click out and get back on. But that's really disconcerting for people with disabilities of all sorts, of hearing impairments, vision impairments, the rest of it. So we really need whatever we do virtually is more likely going to be used by this commission's residents that they represent than really any other because of that issue of disability, and definitely in winter, and flu and COVID season, etc. So we've got to really make sure that we can get it started right away, and everything gets out there. In fact, I need to remind myself to always make a note when I start to let people know this is recorded as well, which it is.
The cost is $18.33 a month. $18.33.
That's
Oh,
pretty.
18, I thought you were saying 18,000. Okay.
No.
18,000.
No. It's very reasonable.
219.
Because a personal account was like $16.99, so I didn't think that a professional account would be too much more.
No, it's very reasonable. And then the other thing I want to find out more about too is again how we can get the translations done, and the this is my brain dead state right now. What am I thinking of? Closed caption.
Yeah, the closed caption is free. The translations, they mentioned there is a package. So I'll talk about that Monday when I meet with them.
Yeah, when everything comes in, we'll know. So,
And who will be the host for this Zoom sessions?
Monthly? Do you mean the new Zoom account, Betty?
Yeah. When
Yes.
you do the Zoom account, you've got to have a host to run all this. Who is the host going to be?
It could be me, but I think Zoom is easier to transfer than Google accounts.
Right.
So
Yeah,
anyone,
you
you can
just
have
set it up
co-hosts.
on any
Yeah, and you
given
can have
meeting.
co-hosts. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not as complicated, thank God.
yeah, and
We'll have
that
to run
is
back to the media room and run back.
I can even do that one, and have virtually where you change administrators, or hopefully even be able to put up documents, things like that as we get better with it, and depending on our time element and the rest of it, I just find Zoom so much easier personally.
So typically Kelly will schedule it, and then if we need to shift it to someone else,
Yes.
it'll happen during the meeting. Okay.
Yeah, I'll make Lynn the co-host because I think that would give her equal access to start.
Almost, not quite though.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
it's pretty limited.
Yeah.
Okay.
It has. In fact, and that's something I'd like to do too, hopefully this month, and some free time for both of us that we can maybe get together and really talk, and maybe even Kelly experiment with it a little bit just to make sure we have that pretty fluid. And again, like all new things, it'll be a little back and forth, but I think ultimately it's going to mean a lot more fluid, better, timely communication. So, on that note, any other questions? And it's very nice that I can hear you very well tonight, too. So, then I would ask for a motion to vote on the approval of the expenditure for Zoom.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Got to do a roll call.
Excuse me. Betty, first, please.
Yes.
Jess?
Approve.
Sarah?
Yes, approved.
Leanna?
Yes.
And Marlene?
Yes.
And Lynn, yes. Unanimous. All right, very good. So while we're talking really quickly, then a about budget again for now. We are certainly not, I don't think, ready to vote on survey. I know we support it. Also interesting because we had pretty much the same amount and set up for that subcommittee a long time ago, which Don approved. And on the survey, again, we've discussed many times in this group, full group, that we think it would be good to go into some of the individual community organizations that all of us are familiar with, just to kind of let them know that the commission is here and just kind of very casually get to know folks before we actually start submitting the survey. I imagine everybody agreed with that before, so I imagine they still do. There's a couple events coming up in fall, which Jess and actually Kelly know about too, that we may attend, and again, the idea to try to let them know us as well, and tell them that, to get them to kind of start thinking about it. Then the thing will be, obviously, we had done some work on questions with that. In the past already, we need to start thinking as we're talking to people where it seems from them where the good questions will come from and help direct us. And then the question will be at that point when I think, and I'll obviously ask you guys what you all think, that that will be the time to start thinking about the expenditure pretty soon on one of the apps that will, like, Survey Monkey. So I would ask you, I know some about Survey Monkey. I've done some investigation of the sort of, and not unlike Zoom, they have a package, different packages of sorts of assets they have. Is there any other app that anybody else is familiar with for surveys specifically?
Google Forms could do surveys, but also the mayor has I think he has a Survey Monkey account, and I think Aaron Vega does too. So I wonder if
that would
I can
be.
check to
Can
see
you
if
check?
either one of them?
All right, that'd be great. So that's kind of is all I have really for an update on that. I sure don't want to wait too long to do the survey. And we also have to check in to how we could go about getting that translated. That'll be a really important part of it. There is a couple of people I know, anybody else out there that know of translators that may offer their services.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
When it comes to the translators, is there a certain protocol that we have to follow or has to be followed in translating documents? I'm saying, like, for us, for the state where I work, we have to get, they have a designated person, department at UMass that does the translations for their documents. So do we have to follow that as well? Or
That's a
can we
good
do it on our
question.
own?
I know the education, I've heard people say a number of times that the school system has somebody, so that might be a good place to start asking questions. And also whether they would do it for us as well. But again, if you're talking about the proper protocol to follow too on how you do that translation. Anybody else? Okay, so other than that, I don't really have anything to add. The other categories, we've begun a relationship with Neve. We certainly need to get back in touch with her. The other thing, and Marlene, correct me if I'm wrong too, about that is I think we've been kind of waiting about pushing that just because with issues with Medicaid being kind of up in the air too, which is related to transportation. And also city budgets, everybody being very cautious. It was East Hampton who provided the model for us, but Marlene has worked on this and is very aware of how that works in with the MTA in order to get that bus and that sort of thing as well. So I don't know if you have any updates or anything to add.
No, I guess couple things. Some of it will depend on how interested the senior center and Neve are towards the interest in getting an accessible vehicle and moving that into their fleet of services. And we should also, I think, besides the senior center, I think we need to figure out where else or who else we need to think about the distribution with. But the relationship with the transit authority, when I spoke to them, would be that they have their easy answer that's quick, as opposed to going out and buying a new vehicle, is that before the transit authority disposes of vehicles, what they do is they make them available at like $1 to community entities. And Agawam, for instance, is one of the communities that got involved in accessible transportation through their senior center. So there's different ways to do it, but the important part is going to be getting Neve and the senior center to have an interest.
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
doing
so we should probably try to either meet with her in the smaller group or invite her to come to the full group again. Jess, did you have a question? No. Okay. And I definitely see that because, again, it's still a big undertaking for her. And we had initially, as we discussed with you all, wanted to be able to reach out to other residents, not just only the senior center. It was upon finding out that they amazingly didn't have an accessible vehicle, wheelchair accessible vehicle. So
stuff that gives me a headache.
Yeah, I would say so. Anyway, so yeah, but there are other folks obviously that need to get to dialysis, other neighborhoods, particularly where there are less people who own their own cars or higher density. Yeah, I would. We need to probably talk about how we figure out
who and
well, and with the MTA. So can they coordinate? How did they determine their route, their map, when they do something like that? But like I said, we can start back with Neve.
We should start with Neve and have a conversation about their level of, first of all, her level of interest in figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I know who the PVTA representative is for the city. Kelly, do you know?
I don't, but I can check.
That would be good. Anybody else? Okay. So I think then the only other thing did somebody say something?
No.
Sorry, I'm hearing
Nope.
I think I'm hearing something back there. So, or somebody, or it's me, has an echo. We'll stay away from the microphone. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so back, just to kind of finish up budget, I want to go to, again, briefly on the 22G. I think I had told you that Patty Devine, who's one of our counselors, is recovering from back surgery this month, and said she was chairing finance committee and standing stalwart behind us in promoting and supporting the 22G funds, that we were going to give her a little time before we jump into that again and talk about next move and where we go in terms of the finance committee. And also we have election coming up, as you all know, I'm sure, and so that also ties up city councilors. So I'm kind of thinking that we slow down a little bit on that, at least for the next month. That's my opinion. Anybody else? Or is anybody against going forward with that, or definitely wants to?
Lynn, at the last finance committee meeting where they discussed this, they asked Attorney Bissonnette for some legal opinions. Do you have any sense of where he is in that process?
No, I have heard nothing, and as far as I know, Patty hasn't heard anything. And as
then that kind of speaks to waiting rather than pushing it forward.
well, yeah,
And I'll check in
But
with
also-
to see.
yeah, that and Patty knows that, and we know that. But again, in terms of us in planning our time and how we go about it, because it is a big undertaking, and also what next steps are. Yeah, we have to wait for that. We did, of course, give him legal as much as we could from the state of Massachusetts. And the other thing that I'm hoping to have an opportunity to talk in front of him before is we spoke a lot about the budget, very good questions. How much money? Where was it? One thing definitely has been suggested, and I even thought about that we might do what some commissions do who are receiving these funds already, and that is to give a small portion to enforcement or to the general fund to give it to enforcement. And that is something that Councilor Jordan was interested in. Patty also mentioned it, and we've discussed that as well as a possibility. So there is also that part that we need to talk about. But we did talk a lot about the monetary aspects with City Council, where it was coming from, who else did it, gave them examples, etc. And again, using our own fiscal year budget as a model for the way we were planning to divide that money and the expenditures and where they would be going. What we didn't talk about, and it's interesting, is almost all the counselors, especially at the full city council when we were talking about the fiscal year budget, almost all of them right away said, yeah, I'd like this. I'm all for the need, but I got some questions about the budget. But the funny thing was, we never talked about why the need. And I would like to really speak in front of them and also have us speak to individual counselors about what the specific needs are. And boy, I have accrued quite a list and links of some really good reasons why this group could be in trouble. And we're already starting to see it, and already was, and where the needs are. So that's all I've got to say. Again, if somebody else comment on how they feel about pursuing the funds.
I mean, I think we should pursue them, but I do think I'm going to follow up with Bissonnette and see what he says. But I do think election season is very busy. And
Yep.
I don't think we should wait.
Think it would be an advantage to us probably to push on right now. Anybody else?
I agree, we should not push right now.
Yep.
I agree as well.
I agree as well.
Leanna's nodding. All right, very good. All right, let's get on then back to that is. Does anybody getting? You hear that echo?
I hear the echo.
Okay. Oh well. Anyway,
This room is making me allergic.
Yeah,
it's
the
do
plug-in,
you have
it's
water?
the carpet, it's a lot of
This room is making me allergic. I'm allergic to City Hall.
Well, no. All right, mold issues. No, don't say that, Lynn. All right, so we're going on, I think really back to, I don't really have much more on the budget. So let's go ahead and do, I'm sorry, here we go.
We're on the pending HP sign applications.
Yeah, let's go ahead and just do all of them. We really don't have any new ones anyway. So I sent you the attachment. Actually, I've been sending you attachments for the last couple months on our constant updates on these things. So I'll start off just with that attachment. And I tried to put some of the additions I put in red just for transparency that this information was constantly changing and accruing. Most of them were really done by August, except for a couple signatures. But most of them really were, and that was my error, as I said to you, that I did not have us discuss them or take care of them. And then when I send out a note, I found out from Leanna, as you all may have seen on the email, a former chair, that this is something that both she and Don had done before, that it was okay to go ahead if the chair thought, after doing due diligence, that it was okay to send on ahead. And so I really appreciated that because it definitely limited my anxiety and meant I did not have to worry about calling anybody into a meeting because of my error, and they could get these things done. So as you saw in my note, all of them, I explained what happened with all of them. I mean, the one that I did on, I think it was Northbridge, that was already taken care of by me before August anyway, but from the property search site that I found, that, and he being owner and no driveways on either side anyway. So I went ahead and, as I said, sent all of them. Carrie Padua's for her son Elijah, for Elijah Santos, that I had done myself too. I mean, we've known for a while, and I had reported on that Juan Anderson Burgos, counselor, her counselor, was working on trying to get that particular order in because of the unusually long area of no parking on Jarvis Avenue there. So, but those things do take some time. And so the only thing on that, and that brings up for me a question for Leanna and Betty, who have been on this commission longer in terms of these things. Is there anything from keeping us, even in protocol or policy, to when we know information, for instance, like with Carrie Padua, that there's a reason that's taking time, but can we contact her? Why can't we simply contact her? Her information is on the application, just to let her know that we haven't forgotten it. This is the progress. This is happening, and your counselor will contact you on the progress of this, just so she knows.
I mean, personally, I used to let the city councilors contact the constituent and allow them to provide the update, primarily because they were the point of contact for the individual in the first place. And I didn't want to make anybody uncomfortable.
Right.
They were comfortable with their city councilor, and I felt that that was best. And that was how I did it. I'm not sure what Don's process was, but I feel like it was probably much the same.
Okay. That's
It
good.
was either a city councilor or Jeffrey that Don worked with, but
Okay.
no one from the commission tended to call an individual.
Okay.
It was always someone else, yeah.
And I asked him the question as well, and he was very honest. He said he wasn't sure. He thought it might be a good idea, but he wasn't sure. And in the case of Carrie, of course, it's his husband Juan who is her counselor anyway, and so I know he'll give it that attention. So let's see. Again, we've been over all these. I've sent them out. Now this one, with the only addition was then when we had the issue with Georgina. And this kind of relates to going back and talking about roles for all of the jobs that we do here, like these signs and applications. So on Georgina Reyes, it's what we found out is that finally we got Coco to keep talking to her, and what we found out is there was a language barrier. And that was most of the issue in getting it signed, as I explained there. And so I guess Coco contacted Nielka in the mayor's office, and she did the translation, and they got that signed and taken care of. So, and then I gave you the update also when I double checked. Jeffrey was on CC'd along with me and Coco on that last thing with Georgina Reyes and the signature, and I just double checked to make sure that he knew, since we were having our meeting tonight, that the plan was to go ahead with that one. And that's when he told me too that they had the two other ones that we had not been sent. One has not received an application, and the other one was for a sign to be removed.
Lynn,
Yeah.
who didn't receive an application? What, do you have information? Is that North Summer Street?
That is North Summer, but
How did it
that's.
get through city council in August?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Betty.
The application for 34 North Summer Street went through the city council meeting 8/5/25. How did that happen if there's no application?
I do not know. He only told me this by the phone,
Okay.
so I have no idea what the complications there are or not. So, and there have been no other new ones since. So, oops. So that's it. Any questions on any of that? And then all I want to say as far as that goes is, again, I think we all did pretty well in this last year with all the things that we had to incur. And everybody was doing different things for touching on site visits and doing, I mean, Betty went out there even when she couldn't drive and went along for direction and help that way. So, and Jess as well. We also contacted the clerk's office a couple times when we needed to make sure that placement of the signs were not too close. So I think we did pretty good, but I think it's a complex setup, but our role is pretty, definitive in what it is stated on the application. The only thing that occurs to me, and I wanted to ask you in terms of talking about who we can get, at least to finish out what's left of the year to cover these things. And Betty and Jess had volunteered in our August meeting about a lot of this. But
if you're looking for someone to do site visits, I'm happy to do them.
I appreciate that, Leanna. Again, so for me, in the role of that, in terms of actual site visits, for instance, there are those things that I could do. It gets trickier when with the wheelchair and getting in and out of the car if I have to put the ramp out, or particularly if it's site visits in winter. But I can do some of them, and quite frankly, I've been pretty overwhelmed with taking on a lot of responsibilities this year that I hadn't anticipated, and I'm glad to do most of it. But that one would be helpful. But the other thing is, again, how we can do our part. It does seem like one of the things that happens is, again, that the applications aren't always filled out. And that going back and forth for different reasons, and different counselors can take time. So one of those issues clearly is translation. And I know we all talked about this a while ago, but I'm wondering if, a good, I'd like to have a discussion with Brenna, excuse me, and see if we can't get that application in Spanish. And then I think that will start to help some aspects of it.
Then I'll email her now to see if that's possible.
Okay.
She has bilingual clerks, so I'm sure they can translate it.
And she's always been really receptive to me when there's been anything. And then the other thing, so back to who can do that. So again, Betty and Jess had both offered to help out with that. And I guess what I'd like to see, I would still like to be in that. So if you are contacting Jeffrey, so the other thing is I want to make sure Jeffrey knows who he has a contact with. So we're not being redundant and making him crazy, or right side doesn't know what left side is doing. So in terms of chair, and because the buck stops with the chair, whoever it is, by the way, that's the name they see. So if it's done incorrectly, so I didn't mean to give double signals to Betty and to Jess about that. What I'd really like to see you all do is, is we all go over the applications, but if you all can do the site visits, and I have no problem with either, say, Betty or I talking to them, but I would ask that anybody that corresponds about decisions related to it definitely CCs me in, just so I know what's going on. that's simple. Not control, just wanting, of course, to know what's happening, and then they know who they're talking to so they don't get anything. And I've talked with Jeffrey about this, and he says that would be great. So I've talked to him about whether there is a time that he can regularly send those applications, but the way they come in, it doesn't look like there's any way that logically can happen to benefit us or him. So he's just going to send them in as he gets them, and then we try to start moving on them as soon as we can. And so anybody else have anything else as far as that goes? But so again, Betty, if you want to go ahead and do those visits and set up who you can use to have come with you, that would be wonderful.
The only visit yet to be done is the one we haven't received. All the other
Yeah.
ones we've discussed,
Yeah.
and we have site visits
Yeah.
done.
Yep. Yes, and I know that we don't have that many more months in the year. So, but we have a plan and a line of communication that's clear. And so that's what I wanted to make clear to everybody tonight. So if we can do that, should they come in, then we know who they go to and how to go about it and what the process is. And I hope I will be better on that too. All right. I'm sorry.
This is Sarah.
Yes, Sarah.
I'm just wondering, if it comes to translation of the parking applications, could that be, if it's an issue, could that be something that we pay for out of our funds? Since it's an accessibility issue, particularly pertaining to disabled residents of Holyoke.
I'm sure it can be, but I don't think it will be an issue.
Okay.
That's a good idea, though. And again, back to what we can do in that budget. The first category really is about education and resources and information. All of that, and that, of course, it's all about communication. So that's where we'll be going to, I think, for translation, in more than one way. I hope that this is something that will grow for all types of disabilities and communication impairments. All right. Anything else on that? Because otherwise, we can. I think that's pretty much. There is one thing, and on the hiking on the trails bill, we don't have an update on that just yet, but I'll let you know if there is. And the only other new business was something that came in actually to me just yesterday. So a woman from the Holyoke Housing Authority contacted me by email. Sarah Miser Zimbler from the Holyoke Housing Authority, and she was emailing concerning South Holyoke homes. You've probably seen the big project. The mayor's been advertising it a lot. They received a lot of grant money from the state, I believe. Sadly, there aren't a whole lot of these homes and projects that always come with ADA accessible apartments. So anyway, she said they do have in the South Holyoke Homes complex, they have one home that is fully ADA compliant, and they haven't had a family contact them about it yet. So she was wondering if I had suggestions, and I have a ton of suggestions, but it doesn't really surprise me because a lot of times able-bodied people really don't know where to find us sometimes. I had that happen with the shelter and the food kitchen at Providence Ministries, that they do a wonderful job there, but their elevator hadn't been working for 2 years, I think you remember. And they told me that they know the homeless community pretty well, and they don't have any disabled homeless people. And I can tell you that is just not true, because I've seen them. But when you know you can't get in somewhere, then you don't go back and you don't try. And it's a very private thing for many of us to talk about needing help in terms of disability. So I know, of a couple of places that I will contact, but I wanted to tell you all in the event you had suggestions for me to pass on to.
Well, I mean, I would say that if they're doing a project and looking for owners or tenants or whatever, wouldn't they advertise that the facility is accessible? I mean, wouldn't they make that part of their advertising?
Certainly should be.
And if it's not, then that's a problem. But if they are, then, I mean, that's the most effective way to do it, is to note that as part of this project, there are accessible homes.
Yeah, and the very good thing about that is it's the mindset we have to change. And it is a huge societal mindset. So that's how it starts. When it looks like everybody's doing it, then everybody starts doing it. But that is the last item that I have tonight. I know you would like to get home. I have 3 friends from North Carolina that have been in my house since yesterday, and I've hardly said word one for the stuff I do here. So I'm really anxious to get home. So go have a good, lovely evening. Night to all of you. Anybody else?
I'm all set.
All right.
Oh, how about a motion to end the
Motion to
meeting?
adjourn.
Second.
And we adjourn. Good night.